Today, I'm going to be making a dish that I love. It's called Fatteh Batinjan, which means Batinjan is aubergine or eggplant. Fatteh implies that there's a bread component that has been broken, or fettet in Arabic, fatfit. So let's get started. The star ingredient of this dish, as I told you, Fatteh Batinjan, is the eggplant, or the aubergine as it's known. I'm using today two kinds. This one is Chinese eggplant or Japanese eggplant. I like it because it's really nice and sweet and the seeds aren't bitter. And then there's another eggplant that I love is this one. It's an Italian version, and both of them are equally yummy. So I'm going to try showing you one of each. So what I do in this case is I take my knife, a very sharp knife, and very carefully, watch your fingers here, okay? What I'm going to do is just slice it in half so I have equal portion on either side. Look at how beautiful and creamy white it is. Very few seeds. Now here's the other one. Slice that exactly the same way in half, like that. Then I'm going to just turn them over and make a very thin slice, and that's primarily so that the eggplant will sit and not wobble. That's the only reason I do that. And I'm going to place my eggplants just like that. I'm just going to score, so I'm not cutting all the way through. And I'm just giving it some room to cook by scoring it this way so that it cooks faster. And it actually looks nice as well. And it doesn't matter, there's no reason or rhyme to how you do it. You just find a way to score it. Now I have my oven preheated on broil. So that's basically the temperature coming from the top, because I want it to cook and roast in intense heat, okay, so that I get the beautiful caramelization, which is what I'm after. And what I'm using is olive oil, or zeytun, as we call it in Arabic. So I'm just going to drizzle on generously, okay? Now, if you've ever cooked with eggplant and know how much eggplant actually soaks up any oil you use, it's like a sponge. So if ever you've fried it and experienced that, you'll see how much oil it actually absorbs. And that is extra flavor because the eggplant doesn't have very much taste on its own, so it needs a lot of help. Now I'm sprinkling on just some salt, and that is all that needs to be done. This tray goes into the oven and allow it to roast, get caramelized, and soft and buttery and sweet. While my eggplants are roasting, and I can smell them already, they're halfway there, I'm going to start making the sauce that is very, very important to pull this dish together. So in my bowl here, I have just plain yogurt. Now this happens to be yogurt that I've made. This is the homemade yogurt. Now to the yogurt, I'm going to grate a clove of garlic. You can put a clove or half a clove depending on how much you like. Now the garlic shouldn't be too powerful. You don't want it to be too strong to take over. It's really meant to flavor the yogurt and accentuate it and for the whole dish. So that is enough for me. Okay, so you see this grater is fabulous because it actually makes the garlic, turns it into a paste. I like to zest some lemon, and I'm just using my zester. I just like these because they give me some nice long strips, and I like seeing them inside. And what the lemon zest does here is it adds a beautiful citrus, fresh taste and smell to the yogurt, and it complements it really well. I add in a little bit of salt, okay, and mix. I mean, this is the easiest sauce on earth. Okay, there's nothing more to do other than that. Voila. So that's my yogurt. I'm going to set it aside. And here we are. Here are the eggplants that are fully cooked. And I want to show you, how do you know they're fully cooked? Well, just with a knife, you just have to poke in and you have no resistance whatsoever. There you go. Nothing. It's really like butter. Okay? nice and sweet. And now I'm just going to put it aside, and we're going to carry on now to make the topping. And I'm using ground lamb. Now you could use beef, no problem, but traditionally in the Arab world, where this dish comes from, it would be lamb. Okay, so what I start with is a hot pan, and I'm going to put in some olive oil. Okay, just that much. And I'm going to start first by putting in my meat. Now I do it this way because I want my meat to caramelize first before I add in the onions. So this way it doesn't have to fight with the onions water that is going to be naturally coming out of it. So I just press it down, and right now it just looks like a big hamburger patty, okay, which is okay, because what we're doing is allowing it to caramelize. That sizzling sound, something's cooking in the kitchen. Okay, all right, we'll just be patient. Okay, you see that? That's browning, and that is, in other words, flavor, okay? So you're adding nice flavor to the meat, because I don't want it to steam, okay? See what I'm talking about? And I want it to caramelize on the other side, okay? It's not necessarily going to cook all the way through yet, okay? We'll continue cooking, but I want to ensure that sweetness first. Just going to break it up. And just move it to the side is what I like to do. And then I'm going to introduce the onions. Now this is just some onions that I've chopped into tiny cubes. I've got a lot here, so I'm not going to use all of it. So this is the equivalent of about half an onion, okay? A half a medium onion. And allow them to saute. Some salt. And then black pepper. So now I'm going to introduce my meat to the onions, get to know each other. I'm going to add in the spices. So I'm going to start with a little bit of cardamom, ground cardamom. This is allspice. And there's about, a quarter of a teaspoon of each. If you want more, you can put more. This is cinnamon. And then here I have nutmeg. So I always grate my nutmeg fresh. This is sumac, and sumac is that tart berry that is dried and ground and gives a nice acidity to food, whether it's meat or sometimes we often have it in salads as well. So I'm just going to stir everything together. Now you see that the meat is chunky right now. Some of them are in big pieces, but that's okay because later on, before we put everything together, I'll break them up and make them all more uniform. Now this is dry mint, and I've got myself a little handful, and I'm just going to make it snow on top of my lamb. And if ever you've tried lamb with mint, you'll know what I'm talking about. The flavor is just nothing like that flavor. It is beautiful. Mint was made to be on top of lamb, okay? They're best buddies. This is chili pepper that I like to add, totally optional, just to give it a little kick. Here I have toasted or fried pine nuts. If you don't have pine nuts, you can certainly put in almonds, you can put pistachios, or you could just skip the nuts. You don't have to put nuts, but they add a nice buttery crunch. These are Roma tomatoes that I've peeled and I've diced really small, just like the onions, and that is the fresh element that I like to add to the meat. And this adds a nice sweetness and a nice acidity. There's always room for acidity in all food, so it's a welcome addition, and it also gives it, as you can see, a nice color, so a burst of color. So basically, that is my filling, completely finished. Eggplants have cooled, okay, so they're still in their pan, and my meat mixture is obviously cooked and ready to go. So what I do now is I take this mixture and place it on top of each eggplant. You can turn this dish into a vegetarian dish as well, because you could just leave out the meat completely and enjoy the rest of the components of this dish. So there's no reason why you have to put meat, but traditionally it is served with meat. There we go. So that's the last one. I'm going to leave this one as vegetarian. So what I do before I serve this and put it all together, of course everything is at room temperature right now, so I want to heat it through. So if you're making this for a party or dinner or something, you could actually do all of these steps that we did today the day before in advance. Cover it, put it in the fridge the next day. Just before you're about to serve it, you turn your oven on, 350 degrees, nothing excessively hot. All you want to do is just heat everything through. I mean, it's delicious at room temperature, but it needs to be hot to really be appreciated the way it should be. So this is going to go into the oven that is already preheated at 350. My eggplant is already heated through. It's nice and hot. Everything is the same temperature on my plate. I remember I told you at the beginning, it's called fettet batinjan, and fettet implies that there is a bread component. Now, traditionally, what I would do is fry Arabic bread or toast it in the oven, and that would be either sprinkled on top or put on the bottom. Doesn't matter how you put it, but it's part of the dish. So I'm not going to do it this way. I actually ground that bread with some pine nuts and some almonds that are all toasted. So I ground them all together into a coarse crumb coating. So the bread component is still part of this dish, but it's going to be delivered in a little different way, the yogurt sauce. So it's been in the fridge, and then you drizzle on this glorious yogurt. And I like to put it on, not completely, so it's there, but it's not covering, because I want to see everything as well. So this is the coating that I told you about. So you're going to get that element of crunch. I have here microgreens. So this is like radish and arugula. And I'm just adding this on just to give it a nice freshness as well and color. Okay, it's nice that way. Now, if you don't have that, you can put, a sprig of mint, because remember, mint was in the dish, so it would make sense. Just like, a little piece of mint like that. That would be nice to put on there as well. And then I'm just going to pop it with a little bit of beautiful, fresh pomegranates. And it really is complementary. The pomegranates give it a nice sweetness. And we did put lemon zest in the yogurt, but I like to just add a little punch of lemon zest, and that just gives it a nice freshness, okay? It really picks it up. And that's it. That is my fettet batinjan, the way I like to make it. And if you've never had eggplant and this is your first time experiencing it, maybe you're afraid to make it, I don't know, or you've had a bad version of an eggplant. There's nothing worse when it's not cooked enough, but this is fully cooked. I guarantee you this will be an unforgettable bite. It's, I've got that beautiful eggplant that is melting and sweet, literally like butter. And then, of course, the meat, I can taste the crunch of the bread that's on there, and the freshness of the lemon, and of course the yogurt that's cools off the heat of the meat. It's a perfect bite. I hope that you give it a try, and let me know in the comments what you think. If you like this recipe, give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Until we eat again, I say, Sahau Hana. Bye.